I think a lot of Republicans who are starting to cool on Trump and some of the drama, I think DeSantis is seen more as a vehicle where maybe they get the same sort of policy outcomes, but not have to be so worn out by the daily news cycle. Ron DeSantis' sort of magic spell has been to nationalize everything. He's gone after things like the discussion of gender identity and sexual orientation in classrooms up to third grade, the branded so-called Don't Say Gay bill.
How many parents want their kindergartners to have transgenderism or something injected into classroom instruction?
A good example is critical race theory. He was sort of on the front end of making that a national conservative issue.
Dividing kids based on race, trying to say some are oppressors and some are oppressed based on race. Those things are poison.
He talked about it first. He had his State Department of Education craft rules to push back against it. So he took what was at the time seen as an in-the-weeds sort of wonky education issue that was maybe resonating a bit politically, and he made it a massive national issue. But now DeSantis has just become sort of his own entity and sort of a political player in his own right nationally, that when he does things, they get attention on their own. DeSantis has sort of a unique ability to take any issue and make it into a culture war issue. DeSantis has raised well over $100 million at this point. He's on pace to break all Florida state campaign finance records. A lot of that money is coming from big Trump donors. I don't totally know what it means yet. I don't know that they've left President Trump necessarily. He's not on the ballot. He's not in cycle for the midterms. These guys who have never, ever cared about Florida, these are national level donors who have never given in state level elections, are giving millions of dollars to DeSantis now. I think there's a lot of Republican donor class folks who are sort of betting DeSantis and getting a sense of whether, they could support him if Trump doesn't run. I think there's only two real reasons that out-of-state donors would give to any gubernatorial candidate, including Ron DeSantis. One is just their movement conservative donors, and then there are others who see him as a future presidential candidate.
I don't have to tell you about the ultra-MAGA agenda attacking families and our freedoms. In Florida, going after Mickey Mouse, for God's sake.
I think the White House, when looking at Florida through a political lens, is a bit perplexed at the moment. DeSantis seems at this moment so sort of unbeatable. Florida is one of the most expensive states in the country. During an election cycle, Tampa, Orlando, and Miami are the most expensive media markets in the country. So I think there are Democrats nationally, without question, that are having the conversation. Do we dump a ton of money into Florida with the chances of Republicans still winning pretty high, or do we start putting those resources in other states where we can win governor's mansions for a lot cheaper? The Democratic Governors Association, for instance, doesn't have as big a presence in 2022 in Florida as it normally would, but from a White House and a Biden administration perspective, I don't think they're totally there as far as, quote, giving up on the state or writing it in. Governor DeSantis has done extremely well with small dollar donors. There are some months where his monthly campaign finance report would literally be hundreds of pages long. Most of them are $25, $50 sort of contributions from across the country. He is raising literally thousands upon thousands of small dollar contributions, which is not normal for a state level politician, at least not to this degree. And it's really helping him actually replace some of the more traditional donors here in Florida. There are companies like Disney and a few others who are large political donors and players in Florida who are not contributing to DeSantis right now over sort of policy and political fights.
For Disney to come out and put a statement and say that the bill should have never passed and that they are going to actively work to repeal it, I think that crossed the line.
All of a sudden, Republicans are boycotting Disney and protesting in front of it. It's become an us versus them team sport mentality with politics. He sort of branded them as, quote, woke corporations, and he has used them as sort of the central villain in a lot of his culture war fights.
Everyone knows my husband, Ron DeSantis, is endorsed by President Trump.
Then Mr. Trump said, "You're fired."
So Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, their relationship is sort of the relationship that changed Florida politics and to a degree the Republican Party nationally. The relationship really starts back in 2017. President Trump tweeted an endorsement of Ron DeSantis, which really made him ascendant within state politics. Ron DeSantis wasn't supposed to win. In a lot of ways, Donald Trump views Ron DeSantis as a creation he made. And Ron DeSantis, I think is also a little leery of the perception that Trump made him. He does not like it. Ron DeSantis, a lot of people kind of forget because he's a heavy favorite, still has to win re-election in 2022. Trump hasn't endorsed him, and we have reported that he has not asked for it. DeSantis is among the few Republican politicians in the country that doesn't need a Trump endorsement, and politically it won't hurt him that much. Now, the big question will be for the relationship moving forward is if Trump starts going after DeSantis, as he has at political opponents in the past, sort of directly and unambiguously. That has not happened yet. I'm skeptical that it will. I'm not sure that Ron DeSantis belongs to any necessarily traditional wing of the Republican Party. He sort of blazed his own way. He's just kind of mean, and they like that. He'll take every opportunity to bash the media, to bash corporations. He's someone who doesn't try to avoid political enemies. He tries to make them and then amplify them and raise money and engender intense support off of that. So he's sort of the post-MAGA and post-Trump, the new right and the new Republican Party has looked a lot different. Trump sort of laid the roots for this to a degree, but DeSantis is definitely take it and run with it.